there, and welcome to the Evotel podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I was a personality hire. So today, to talk about all our support and ISP goings on, I've got Maartens with me today. Maartens is our support manager. That's what you're called now, right?
Yeah.
Where last time we spoke to you, you were just on the phones, but now you've gone up in the world. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Okay, so some pressing topics we'll be covering today. Let's start with the responsibility between the ISP and the FNO, the ISP being the internet service provider and us being the fiber provider. Because I think that we're currently still sitting in a situation where a lot of clients don't really, they don't know who to speak to about what kind of thing. So can you give us a brief overview of who does what and who's responsible for what?
So basically, we as a FNO, a fiber network operator, are responsible for the infrastructure of the network. Mm-hmm. So basically, the connection that allows you to connect towards your ISP.
Okay.
So in general, our ISP will have their own upstream service provider. Mm-hmm. They'll have their own routers depending on the ISP. And we provide that connection via our ONT to connect towards their upstream provider.
Okay. We've been hearing that word a lot lately on our networks. What is an upstream provider?
The upstream provider is the providers that allows us to connect to the underground sea cables that is currently renting the services towards ISPs.
So we're talking those businesses like Seacom and Cloudflare who are like dropping cables
across the seaboard, yes.
So with our speed issues earlier this year with Seacom cable off Africa.
That's basically from their side, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So in terms of those speed issues, because for instance we've had those, we had the break off the coast of Africa. Speed issues, whose baby is it? Are we at fault? Is the ISP at fault? A lot of clients will complain about speed issues, and a lot of the time it's not something that I as a social media manager can spot instantly where the problem is. Where are these speed issues coming from?
So basically there's factors that regarding speed issues, like for the infrastructure wise of FNO, it is our light levels. That would be the levels that your internet is traveling through our cables. Mm-hmm. Should that levels be inaccurate, that can cause disconnections and speed issues. But in general, it starts with the ISP, as we are the connection for the ISP, and the ISP manage their bandwidth that you are using via our connection.
Okay.
So in general, they should start off by querying the ISP to say, listen, we have some speed issues, I'm not getting the connectivity, having disconnected, so that the ISP can investigate internally first to see if there's no issues on their side. Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
So once investigated, that ISP will then raise the issue with us to say, our client's unable to connect, can you investigate your infrastructure?
Because ultimately, the clients that we are discussing here are not our clients, they're the ISP's clients, correct?
Directly, yes.
And for those of you listening, it is also your ISP's job to advocate for you and your connection. So starting with them is always a good position from what I've experienced, because then when I log a ticket, for instance, on social media, I'm effectively cutting the ISP out of many of these discussions because I'm raising it on behalf of the client.
That's correct.
So if it's like an infrastructure issue where I can assist, by all means, that's fine. However, those investigations should probably start at the ISP if that's where the origin is.
That would be a good start to go. With skipping the ISP, we're missing the vital part of the connection between the ISP and Evotel. We're not always 100% sure if that connection is properly set up or everything is correct. So as a FNO, we can supply you with information back to say that everything is correct on our side. And the ISP would be then have to investigate on their side. But now, if you think about it logically, if the ISP investigated, they see the problem, they correct it, your ticket is resolved. If the ISP doesn't see the problem, or if it comes directly towards us, we provide you with feedback and say, sorry, we're not seeing anything wrong with your infrastructure. Then you go back towards the ISP again. So it just delays the whole process.
Yeah.
Where if the ISP is investigated, bring it through to us, we assist the ISP then to resolve the issue together.
And in terms of the responsibility that the ISP has to the client from a technical support side, what is it? They should be logging tickets, as I understand it, correct?
Yes.
If they're logging tickets, what is that doing on your side with your team? Where is it going?
So in general requirements, what we require would be 3 speed tests done on different speed servers that you can get through. It should also be tested directly via ONT, that is cutting up the customer's CPE, which is the customer's personal equipment provided by the ISP itself.
Okay.
General, sometimes ISPs, routers and stuff has a limitation towards them.
Okay.
Those do not get upgraded. By cutting out this equipment, we are avoiding that whole process of checking the equipment and seeing if the infrastructure can have the capabilities to connect.
Okay. So basically, starting at the ISP, always a good spot.
Pardon?
Always starting at the ISP is always a good spot.
It's a good start, it's a quick start, it's a better resolution time at the end of the day.
And make sure that they are raising the tickets with our teams. How many digits are in our tickets?
There's 6 digits, but it's all depending on the amount of queries that comes through.
Okay, well, so for the time being, it's 6.
Six
Make
digits.
sure you guys get your 6-digit code. And then you can come bother me on social media. I'll chase those down for you. From the personality hires perspective, one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm pretty sure you guys have run into it as well, client details. Those are not being updated very regularly, are they?
They are not updated regularly. So as from an ISP's perspective, they would always try to get you connected as soon as possible. So if they do not pick up your address correctly on a portal, they would load the current address or what address is available for them to load, which causes, knock-on effects for us to service you.
Oh yeah, true. Because we technically service the premises, correct?
That's correct.
So if your address is put in wrong, we're gonna pitch up at your neighbor's house maybe, and that's gonna be a bit of an awkward one. But even my SMSs, when there are faults and things like that, I've seen failure rates on my SMSs to let people know that we are aware. Because a lot of the time, and we'll probably discuss this a bit later, a lot of the time people don't know that we know there's a problem. People don't see, because they don't see that their internet's down and that they can't find the technicians. So
I got through, yeah. So initially what the client details, the impact it has of having the wrong client details loaded is technicians driving around looking for installation that's been done on a certain address because the address is wrong. So they're not sure whether they are fixing you or your neighbor because at the point of time they're unsure about it. Sometimes there's delay in phone calls, the cell phone numbers are not updated correctly on there. So from our side, we will always try and investigate from outside the premise to make sure everything is correct. But if the premise is wrong, allocated on the portal itself, then we are looking at a completely wrong card, right? And then sometimes it's not required to get physical access towards the client itself, and we can just check from the outside, fix your fiber line and move on. Sometimes there's access required, and that's only when we realize that the technician was a completely different property than what it was supposed to be.
So who do they talk to update their details?
It has to come through from the ISP. The ISPs need to correct it. But we as Evotel also generally include clients in our tickets. So if they see that the address is wrong, they can always notify us and say my address is wrong, so we can liaise it with the ISP as well as trying to get it correctly updated.
You're mentioning tickets, and from my experience of logging tickets, isn't the email address also correct?
The email address should be correct, but most of the time it's not. Hence why clients not getting the communication, because that email address is not wrong. They're not even aware there's a ticket on the name because the email address was not correctly updated.
Okay, so basically, guys, if you're at home and you're getting your details, if you need your details sorted out, please reach out to your ISP. And then you can see that we're busy with things. But we're talking a lot about fixes and things like that on our agenda for today. SLAs. I have to mention these to clients quite a bit. What is an SLA and why do they matter? Because it gives me a headache.
Yeah, SLA, standard service level agreement that we set up. Our service level agreement is 2 to 72 hours.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means that between 2 hours and on the worst case scenario, 72 hours, we will come out to service you.
Okay. Why?
The reason
do we do
for
it
that
way?
one, so different things happen, different issues. So each unique fiber down that's happening, it's got a unique case. Sometimes it's the way that it's installed that needs to be redone. Sometimes it is a question of tracing the actual fiber towards a link joint, that's just a distribution cable, so everything gets together.
I suppose then, because a lot of people don't realize that just because your fiber line's down doesn't mean that it's a problem on your property. Like,
Yes,
it
it
could
can-
literally be down the street.
It could be 3 kilometers down the street that I need to correct it because that's how the infrastructure runs down.
Yeah.
And that's where the issue comes and that's where the delay comes from. So hence why we're adding this SLAs is that if it's a quick fix, technicians will work through the tickets one to the other. But sometimes there is a bigger issue at hand which delay the process, which delay getting to the next client to get it done. Having multiple technicians on site does to decrease the SLA, hence why I can gladly say we are like 94% within our SLA
Nice.
on our client base. But sometimes there's breaks as well in the municipal contractors that dig up the municipal lines. Those are the stuff that holds the SLA back for them to get to you immediately, because it makes more sense to fix the bigger issue than going towards your home, trying to fix the issue at your current home, but the bigger issue is still a problem.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on that later, don't you worry, because we have got quite a bit to talk about outages and the damage that it can cause. So guys, tune in for that one. But the SLAs specifically, what should, in general, on a good day, what should people expect from the SLA?
I would say, in general, good day, everything is flawlessly 24 hours.
Yeah.
24 hours, they will be back up and running. It's also depending on what's going on in the area, all of that. We have technicians that has gone out immediately to this lock. Valcom, which is a very great network at the point of time for us, technicians will be there in 2 to 3 hours of a ticket lock.
Nice.
So it is working. It's all depending on what's happening in the area, what's happening in the neighborhood at that point of time.
Trench networks, obviously, with the digging can... Yeah,
Yeah,
but we'll talk
layer.
about that one later. Since we're doing some rapid fire questions about ISPs and clients and things like that, a lot of ISPs are doing, with all the load shedding, UPS promotions these days. UPSs, we can keep your network up and running because we take care of the fiber. However, in order for you to have that connection, you need a UPS at home. But we've been running into some problems, haven't we? What is it people need to know about their UPSs?
So one of the general issues we do pick up with the UPSs would be that people are fiddling with the power voltage itself, which
What would that do?
it causes the ONT to power down. So the power voltage is what your ONT requires in able to give the ONT enough power to stay on.
Okay.
Certain equipment does have certain power voltages requirements that the UPS allows to connect to, but like our ONT would be like a 5.9 volts, so your setting would be your 5 volts, for instance.
Okay.
Other issues that we do pick up is cabling, where the power cable is not correctly connected into the ONT,
Okay.
which also causes power down. We had technicians that's carrying out on a regular basis by just, putting in the cable and ONT power down. So no actual fault, client's been down for 24 hours, but it was actually just a cabling issue itself. The other big thing to remember is the range of UPS, meaning the battery life of UPS.
Okay.
Okay, so your UPS will tell you it is 8,000 milliamps. That you'll be able then to work out on how long it will be on. So on the back of your ONT, you'll be able to see how many milliamps your ONT is busy pulling, divided into the total milliamps your UPS given out, and it will then allow you to say, no, but you are pulling 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. One of the main things that clients are forgetting about UPSs is that each charge has a battery cycle.
Yeah.
And with each charge happening, that cycle wears down and it diffuses. So your lifespan, it's like decreasing every time with the charge.
Diminishing returns.
Basically. And with the current load shedding schedule that they are, it's being charged 3 to 4 times a day.
We've lost an inverter already.
So it makes sense just to look after it, make sure that it's see how long it's staying. As soon as you see that your UPS is starting to carry less hours, 4 hours now, it's running on 2 hours, it means it's time to get a replacement. It's all depending on the load shedding schedule and your budget, obviously. But the main thing is set it up according to what the manual says it should be, and you shouldn't have any problems with it.
Okay, well, that's it for clients and ISPs for now. We'll probably check in again with Maartens soon, because we've got some things to talk about. But yes, for any ISP direction, you guys are welcome to come speak to me and my team as well on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. If I can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction at the very least. And if not, I'll hand you over to Maartens and they'll get you sorted out in 2 to 72 hours.
Thanks so much for having us.